Yeah, but before we move on, I want to talk a little bit about the bringing in X-Men to the MCU. In my opinion, if they bring in X-Men, I think that they should just like have the mutants just be a thing. Don't try and retroactively make it make sense that mutants were always there. I think that's unnecessary. Make it a new thing that just happened. That's caused by whoever causes it, most likely Wanda. Um, and I want the X-Men to be teenagers, late teens at max, maybe early, maybe like just fresh out of high school, teens going to college type thing. And I want them. I do not want them to try and start off with like the most iconic team possible. I do not want them to immediately throw Wolverine into the X-Men. I want them to take it slow. You got all the time in the world. Start off with the OG five: Cyclops, Jean Grey, Angel, Iceman, Beast, and naturally Professor Xavier leading them. I want them to do that. Start off with those people. Um, but where my brain goes, the only characters that they might need to retroactively make fit are Professor X, Magneto, and Wolverine. Because I feel like you do got to find a reason to make Wolverine have lived for a significant portion of time. And here's my thought: Wolverine was a super soldier. He was not alive in the 1800s, but he was alive in the early 1900s, and he was Weapon X, but he was a super soldier instead of like a mutant who was like had his skeleton covered in adamantium. And in which ways, like in what type of super soldier and what type of powers he got, I didn't think about it that far. But maybe he's just a regular old like Captain America type super soldier. Um, and maybe he's still got metal bones. And then once the mutant gene is activated, he then unlocks his claws. I think they could do that to still have him have existed like 100 years beforehand. They could do that. And with Professor X, he could just have gotten his powers, but have already been like a philanthropist and like heir to like a rich family or something like that, and be very rich. And with Magneto, now this one is where things get a little rocky. So I have two options. One of them is a very uneducated in certain situations approach to the character that I want to point out that is the case. The first one would be that he is just like a descendant of Jewish. He's Jewish. He has family members who are Jewish, and like he's used to being discriminated against, like his family having been discriminated against, rather than him actively being a really old man who like was in the Holocaust. Because I feel like as time ticks by, whenever I see a comic and Magneto says that he was in the Holocaust, I'm like, dude, you look like you're like 45. There's no way you're in the Holocaust. So like, I feel like that doesn't make sense for them to do that, especially since I would want them to bring Fassbender back. Instead, maybe he could be from like the Middle East, and he could be from I might cut part of this out as I try to figure it out. I need your help with this, and I'm gonna also use Google. What are the two countries that are currently at war with each other? Where like
Palestine and Israel.
Palestine and Israel. What if he's from one of those countries instead? So he still gets a sense of that again, because this is still a very recent like thing that's happening in the world. This is why I'm like, this is delicate, and I'm not the most educated about this. What if he was from one of those countries, and part of the like he's been through injustice and he's a Jewish person comes from that rather than the Holocaust? You see where I'm going with that? I feel
Yes.
like it's a touchy subject and it's a very complicated thing to do. So I feel like they probably definitely won't do that because this is Disney we're talking about. But I feel like that could be interesting approach if they were willing to take that risk.
Alternatively,
And then that's where he gets his like revolutionary mindset. Another option that a lot of people are saying, but a lot of people aren't a fan of, and I understand why, is to make him black and make him like older black man who maybe was alive in like, I don't know, maybe the 60s, maybe the 70s, a time period where there still would have been a significant amount of racism. Even if he's younger, he could still have gone through a very significant amount of racism just in America. If they make him American, naturally. And that's an option, but a lot of people are saying then that would be erasing a Jewish character, which I understand and agree with there. So like yeah, I wonder how they're going to do specifically Magneto, if they do Magneto, which I assume they will. I feel like that's a tough one, unless you want to make him really old, and but somehow still you'll look young.
Alternatively, he's an omega level mutant. Just make it so he ages slowly. I'm pretty
No,
sure
that's
that
what I'm saying though. In this version, mutants haven't existed before; they are new, so he can't have done that.
I mean, just like don't say anything about like I mean, here's the thing, right? They're already kind of hinting at the fact that mutants have always existed, especially in WandaVision with what they were talking about with Wanda is like
Yeah.
mutants have kind of
Oh, you know
always been
what? That was another version I forgot to mention that Professor Xavier and Magneto are one of the very, 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 very few mutants that existed already. That is an option that would make all of this disappear. Because, like you said, then he could just age slow.
yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
That's literally because Wanda she's a mutant. We know that she had powers before the bombs and before she joined Hydra. Like we know for a fact that was the case. So there is a chance that there are just a very small percentage of people with the mutant gene unlocked. And then she does something that causes it to be unlocked in more people. And that is also a way for Wolverine to have existed as long as he usually does, like throughout the 1800s all the way through, till today. And they could probably do that. I completely forgot about that because I also thought about that idea as well. And that would literally simplify everything. It's like, yeah, I really like the idea of the whole Palestine Israel thing, but it would be way too messy to try and do. It would be way too messy. Even though I think it could make an interesting story, it might not be worth the risk. But yeah, that's all I got to say. You want to say anything before we move on?
Well, not really.